One of the great things about short films is that they can be excellent opportunities to experiment with visual ideas and new production techniques or equipment. And I think in this case, this is what Salience was about at heart. It was an experiment, and it classes itself as an experimental short film. You could see it has that kind of wide application. I mean, this could have been used as a music video or a short film. I could have even easily have seen that as an advertisement for a new television or something like that. That's not to discredit it as a story though either. Actually, I thought, through its abstraction, it obviously becomes open to wider interpretation. I thought perhaps not a story we had here, not a story per se, but a thought could be taken away from this. The idea that we remain, I guess, invisible if we don't open ourselves and embrace all of the color and the vivacity that life has to offer, that it allows us to find each other and enrich our lives from what would otherwise be the mendacity of everything else. That's what salience means effectively, to come into exposure, to step away from insignificance and move into the unknown. And I think that's a really nice notion to put across whichever way that you want to look at the film, however you'd like to categorize it. And whichever way you do want to look at it, I think it's fairly safe to say that this is very, very good. Visually, it reminds you of how receptive we are to color and how it really enlivens the senses. I thought that all of the particles and those little details are so well defined in the slow motion. It's just really beautiful to gaze at, almost like observe in the same way that we might a painting on a wall. And those grinding guitars and the other sounds all help add it to the definition and give the film much more texture. So it's definitely a really tightly wrapped piece, which is good. Technically it is made up of what are really simple chroma and compositing techniques, which made it all the more remarkable to me because the results are really effective, and that is again another credit to the sheer quality of the idea. There are some areas where the creases in the bodysuits sort of became visible, and it's unfortunate because it looked as though some basic noise reduction techniques on those plates would have smoothed those out, or even worse come to worse if they'd done what is known as like some garbage mats, which is effectively where you draw around the problem areas and then you can kind of just remove those things. I thought that probably would have solved the problem, so I'm a little surprised they didn't do that. We're getting more sophisticated cameras becoming available to independent filmmakers these days, and as the digital technology grows, I've noticed there is a lot of use of slow motion around at the moment because of that. And everybody is doing it, and there's an excellent behind the scenes video which we're going to show in a minute, which shows you them using it, and that's really cool. It was definitely nice to just see the technique being utilized in a more novel way that brings something extra to the medium, because unfortunately again, when everybody starts doing the same thing, it does become boring and it loses its quality. So it's always an extra credit when you can find a nice innovative way to kind of utilize the technique. And that's what they've done here, so that's really good too. Let's take a look at that video.
Usually a lot of my work focuses on like a new technique that I haven't played with before, like using effects in the wrong way. For this project we used the Phantom Miro camera from MY Cine in conjunction with No Film School. With Salience I wanted to experiment with visibility. Throughout the piece, we see these invisible figures slowly revealed through these bursts of colored powder. The thing that was awesome about the Miro is that we could go into the forest and like tuck it in between two trees or fit it in these impossible places you could not have brought the Flex or other Phantom cameras before. Action! Action! All the powder stuff was done at 1500 frames. That gives you about 2.7 seconds in real time. Most of this stuff was captured with a post trigger, so the camera's always in record mode, it's always looping. And then we used an end trigger so that only the last 3 seconds are saved. Action! From there I bounced everything to After Effects and refined the key with Primat. I wanted it to go from this clean environment to almost this abstract world that sort of transcends the forest. After the shoot, we recorded powder hits in front of a black backdrop that then could be composited and layered in post. The end result was to transform this forest landscape into a sea of colored fog.